was truth in journalism, where brave men and women gave voice to the voiceless. But then the corporations bought the journalist, poisoning the news that we are fed. With those tainted sources, all we ever ate was a steady diet of status quo. This hijacked narrative hid the truth of mass suffering, injustice, and corruption throughout our land. Status quo, status quo, status quo, status quo. To expose this shift to oligarchy came a band of honest journalists. They left the studio and hit the streets to give the microphone back to the people. From sea to sea, the people were empowered to share their truth. Their voices no longer stifled, reclaimed their power. Join the media revolution now.
Out front tonight, chaos at the White House. President Trump's deputy chief of staff, his communications director, is
just because of their connection to President Trump. And I know you've been saying...
We learned recently that Donald Trump threatened to sue his former schools if...
Tired of hearing about Trump 24/7? Become a member at statusquo.com for only $10 a month. Click the notification. With your help, we can start the media revolution.
And before Bernie went on stage, I spoke with his supporters online here, and you really get that feeling from them.
Hey, it's Jordan live on a Tuesday. What are we, August 20th? 1 month before my birthday. Just putting that out there for you. If you want to send gifts early, feel free. It is a very sunny, humid, in climate change inducing day here in New York City. Yes, it's like the middle of August, so you would think, yeah, it makes sense to be kind of hot and humid. It's a little more humid than I remember growing up in these parts of New York. So, that's a good thing, considering Trump is basically, might as well just abolish the EPA because it's run by big oil now. I digress. Hope everyone's having a lovely day. I am very pleased to see Jimmy Dore has just launched his live stream at the same time that I'm going live. Maybe it's as payback that I didn't show up to his comedy show in New York City. Maybe he's paying me back. Apologies again, Jimmy. I had a very, very tight deadline to get a business plan done for the next morning. That's why I didn't come. I hope you forgive me. Just playing, obviously. Jimmy could go live whenever he feels like it. We got a lot to discuss today. Want to remind you, to the 170 people watching, important checklist. I need you. And I'll be mad if you flee. Don't flee, status quo. We get a big show today. I need you all to press that like button. It's the thumbs up button right under the video. So the more people that press the thumbs up button, even if you don't like me, just pretend, just for an hour. Press that like button. The more people that press it, the more people that will see the live stream. I miss Ty. What do you miss? He's right next to me.
What's that?
Ty's doing the live stream. For those of you who might have not tuned in yesterday, nothing sinister really to report. Ty and I have been talking. We're good friends, best friends actually. But unfortunately, sometimes in life, whether it's a friend, a colleague, whatever the case may be, you try to make things work. They don't work. There's kind of a mix here of Ty wants to work on some other things, which I support him doing. We kind of need some other things. So Ty is not excommunicated from status quo forever and ever. He'll be back doing some guest appearances. And he's always part of the family. He just won't be here full time. But he's still in my apartment, so we're we had a nice, lovely dinner last night. So we're on good terms. There's nothing sinister going on here. And hopefully he'll be able, once we find somebody else, to help train the person, because there's a lot needed as far as the tech, the lighting, the audio, the whole nine here. So he's still helping me out here and there as he looks for another job too. So press that like button, and that was to show you that Ty is still very much a beloved figure here at Status Quo. We started with the commercial, too much Trump, enough of the Trump 24/7. So we love Ty, and we will, not today, but in the coming days, we'll definitely be talking about, hiring somebody else. Definitely want someone in New York. Camera person, editor, hopefully knows graphics, can put up with me, put up with other camera people. So that's the deal. There you go. So remember, press the like button. We're also at 690 Status Quo members. By my math, that would be 10 away from 700. Not gonna beg. But for 10 of you souls out there, I think we could get that 10 more today. Statusquo.com/join. Become a member for as low as a cup of coffee a month, or a sandwich, a salad. You got $5 a month. You got $10 a month, or $179 annually. Makes a very, very big difference. Statusquo.com/join to become a member. We definitely want to get that number up to 700 members as soon as we can. So today I decided to watch a little bit more MSNBC than I usually do, just to see, what is the enemy doing. I don't mean the enemy like, Trump fake news, not saying MSNBC do anything bad to MSNBC, but as far as trustworthy information, I wouldn't exactly call MSNBC like a friend of the facts and the truth. And to me, CNN's doing quite a lot of work for Elizabeth Warren too, Joe Biden, but to me, MSNBC has done way more as far as, they're all but campaigning for Joe Biden. And frankly, in my view, clearly trying to prop up Elizabeth Warren in hopes that in propping up Elizabeth Warren, they could drown out Bernie Sanders and pretend he no longer has any mojo. He has no movement. No. So let's first show you Joe Biden. It's been all the rage today. He's out with an advertisement, a commercial in Iowa that I won't give you my narration. Let's look at Joe Biden's first commercial television ad. He's going to have a lot of them with all that Wall Street money he's getting. Let's take a look.
Higher. We know in our bones this election is different. The stakes are higher, the threat more serious. We have to beat Donald Trump. And all the polls agree Joe Biden is the strongest Democrat to do the job. No one is more qualified. For 8 years, President Obama and Vice President Biden were an administration America could be proud of. Our allies could trust, and our kids could look up to. Together, they worked to save the American economy, to pass the historic Affordable Care Act, protecting over 100 million Americans with pre-existing conditions. Now, Joe Biden is running for president with a plan for America's future. To build on Obamacare, not scrap it. To make a record investment in America's schools. To lead the world on climate. To rebuild our alliances. Most of all, he'll restore the soul of the nation. Battered by an erratic, vicious, bullying president. Strong, steady, stable leadership. Biden, president.
I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Set to arrive in Singapore. And
So, Joe Biden, definitely. That was like I would say the bare minimum of, hugging himself over President Obama. We've seen Joe Biden tweet out, friendship bracelets with President Obama, fiercely defending President Obama, all these things. And what's remarkable to me, and this never gets discussed in the corporate media, right? And remember, we got 260 people watching. 160 of you have pressed that like button. Press the like button. It's right under the video, the thumbs up button. The more people that press like, the more people that will see the live stream. So, and all these pundits make it seem like, embracing President Obama is the way to go, and that's great. Well, Hillary Clinton clung on to President Obama for dear life in the 2016 campaign. I'm gonna expand upon Obamacare. I want to continue the Obama legacy, yada, yada, yada. I mean, Obama was a fairly popular president. He still is. But this whole notion of let's just harken back to those good old days under the Obama administration. Well, Obama was a popular president, and the candidate who was clinging to President Obama's policies and let's expand upon his legacy and let's expand Obamacare and these things, lost. In fairness, she did win the popular vote. If we were a sane country, that would be who wins elections, whether it's Hillary Clinton or anyone else. But that's not the country we have. She lost by clinging on to dear life to President Obama. And frankly, the country has moved way further left. If you look at support for Medicare for all, free public college, a Green New Deal, Fight for 15, a lot of policies, they have moved far, far, far past, in my view, faux progressive President Obama. But Joe Biden, he doesn't care, clinging to dear life. And we hear again this, let's recapture the soul of America, which I have thoughts on that soul of America. But, oh my boy, oh my Lord, if you watch Morning Joe in the morning, which I hope you don't, I try to put it, I turn it on when I wake up to try and fall back asleep. I know that sounds sarcastic, but I really try and turn it on to fall back asleep and give myself ideas for the rest of the day to hear what they're talking about. I mean, they were practically gushing. They were so giddy about this commercial ad. Let's play that first Morning Joe clip from this morning in reaction to Joe Biden's Iowa ad.
Well, if politics is all about contrast, and it usually is when you're going up against an incumbent, it's about contrast, then there's a great contrast there. You have a very hopeful, almost Reagan-esque vision of where this country can be. You see a lot of smiles. You see a lot of hugs. You see Joe Biden talking about expanding education, and also something that is so important. While everybody else is talking about scrapping Obamacare, scrapping the Affordable Care Act, Joe Biden is embracing it and saying, hey, you know what?
Let's move forward.
We did great things with that, but let's make it even better. That is a strong message, and it's quite a contrast with Donald Trump. Mika, what did you think?
Well, I liked it a lot. I think it harkened back to some of the positives of the Obama era, but it didn't depend on them. And he stood up for himself in the ad. His experience speaks for itself. When you're making a decision in the Democratic field, it's hard not to look at Joe Biden's experience, not just professionally, with decades serving in Washington and then wanting to go back again, which is saying a lot about who he is, but also personally. And you look at what this nation is looking for, kind of a reaffirmation of who we are. Yeah. It feels like he's the perfect vessel for that. That's my opinion. That's how I personally feel. You know, but before we actually go to the rest of the panel, let's Alex, can we play the ad one more time? I want to have everybody look at it one more time, and then going to go around the table really quickly, get thoughts.
We know in our bones this election is different. The stakes are higher, the threat more serious. We have to beat Donald Trump. And all the polls agree Joe Biden is the strongest Democrat to do the job. No one is more qualified. For 8 years, President Obama and Vice President Biden were
So, not only are they gushing over this ad, they say, wait, producer, let's play it again. Let's play it again for the audience. And by the way, the audience of MSNBC, to be clear, is older. I don't say that to mock the viewers, but the cable news audience tends to be older, and your traditional Democratic Party, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton type voter. And they are actively campaigning for Joe Biden live on the air. There's a difference in giving your opinion and let's play this clip again. Let's play this clip again. And when they talk about such a contrast to Donald Trump, I don't think they read the exit polls in 2016 to know what the very states that elected Donald Trump and the very states that will decide who becomes president in 2020, what their thoughts on key issues that Joe Biden is not a contrast to Donald Trump, that Joe Biden is exactly the same thing as Hillary Clinton. Right here, this is the Wisconsin exit poll. If you scroll down to, they ask about your thoughts on, the effects of trade. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Yep. Wait. Go up. Right there. Effect on international trade, right there on the left. So, Wisconsin, 62% said takes away U.S. jobs. That would be 62% of Trump voters. Takes away U.S. jobs. That's Wisconsin. Then if we go, let's look at Michigan. Same question. Remember to press the like button right under the video. No, you got to X out of here. I sent you that. Yeah. My bad. So Michigan right there. If you scroll down to the very same question in Michigan, CNN, MSNBC, they don't want to provide any context, any actual context of what is important in these states. But go up a little bit. Go up. So keep going. Did I miss it? Yeah, go down. A little slower. Keep going. So in Michigan, keep going. Wait, slow. Michigan, I think. Keep going. Go slower. Keep going. Working out the kinks of Wirecast here. Pardon having to find it, but it's important. Keep going. I don't know where it is. Michigan was similar to Wisconsin. I think it was like 68% were against. Let me get the number for you. I think it was 68% thought the effects of trade took American jobs and offshored them to other countries. And if you look at Pennsylvania, same number, 64% thought takes away U.S. jobs. So if the number one issue in these Rust Belt states were trade and immigration, why would putting forth somebody who voted for NAFTA is for TPP? He could say whatever he wants to say during that debate. As of 2016, he was writing op-eds trying to push through the TPP under President Obama. The same TPP that was a major issue in the 2016 election. And Biden, during the last debate, says, no, I wouldn't sign the TPP under its current language. That is the exact bill, that is the exact trade deal that you were championing 3 years ago as vice president, that you were trying to push, there's plenty of news articles about this, of Hillary Clinton to champion. And Hillary Clinton, of course, flip-flop away from that because Bernie Sanders was becoming more and more popular, and the mood against free trade, i.e. having banks and corporations write trade deals and then having jobs in Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Ohio get sent to Mexico and China, not very popular. So Morning Joe even though it is gushing over Joe Biden, even though they're saying quite a contrast. Yes, anyone who hugs old ladies in commercials and, looks very nice and smiles and isn't foaming at the...
You feel it in your bones.
Right, and isn't foaming at the mouth is quite the contrast to what you have in the office. But is he a contrast to the current president in terms of ideology? Is he a contrast, a stark enough contrast to convince, because the only way you're going to defeat Donald Trump is not only bringing out more voters in the Democratic Party base, you have to pick off some of those Trump voters that went to Trump, which, by the way, 10% of those were former Obama voters that moved over to Trump. Well, if they moved away from Obama, why would they move back to Obama's sidekick, who is, frankly, more right-wing than Obama ever was? Joe Biden is way more conservative than Obama, and Obama is not exactly a progressive. So this is never discussed. The context is never given. We are just getting a very, very bad case of manufacturing consent from MSNBC. And we're going to get those same blank stares on November, I think the election's November 3rd, 2020, if Joe Biden is the nominee and Donald Trump wins 320 electoral college votes.
Is that what you call it?
Yeah, electoral college.
No, I'm saying you calling it 300, that's what he'll win by?
I think he could win over 300 against Joe Biden because they're going to act like, how did this happen? How did we see this? How did people not see this coming? Oh my God, how? I'm telling you how. Because cocktail crowd drinking, coastal elites, Mr. and Mrs. Scarborough, they're married, are basically, because frankly their parent company Comcast, who did a major fundraiser for Joe Biden and is a major union buster, Comcast is, speaking of Union Joe, middle class Joe, I think preferably they all want Trump 4 more years because that continues this reality show that keeps the checks coming, the profit, the ratings, all that. But if they can't have Trump, they would much rather Biden. But, I'm open about my bias. I personally support Bernie Sanders. I'm not like playing his campaign ads 3 times. I'm not being dishonest about his record. They're pretending that someone with pretty much a worse voting record than Hillary Clinton, somebody, frankly, and this is not meant sexist, this is meant factually, is less inspiring than Hillary Clinton. And she wasn't exactly, parting the Red Sea an inspiration in 2016. Joe Biden is literally running Hillary Clinton's campaign strategy. They're talking about courting Republican voters. Remember Chuck Schumer in 2016? For every blue-collar Democrat that we lose in Pennsylvania, we're going to get 2 moderate Republicans in Pittsburgh or something like that. Oh, for every two blue-collar workers we might lose, I think in Pittsburgh or somewhere in Pennsylvania, we'll pick up 2 moderate Republicans. There's no such thing as a moderate Republican. Not anymore. Oh, my God. So not only did MSNBC air this ad twice, it then was left to, what's his name, Willie Geist, who's another, he's not as bad as Joe and Mika, to actually point out that the very essence of the propaganda MSNBC is putting out there is not factual. Let's play MSNBC clip 2.
Ads like that certainly aren't going to hurt him, are they?
Yeah, remember the conventional wisdom going into the second debate was he was so poor in the first debate, he better have a great second debate or else. Well, he didn't have a great second debate. He had a fine second debate, and he's still doing well, holding his position at the top of the polls. I took away what you took away, was let's build on Obamacare. That was a line in the sand with Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, who've said again and again they want to get rid of private insurance and have a Medicare for all plan. He was reminding people he thinks that's a bad bad idea. I would be careful with him on this electability question, though. Who's the person who can beat Donald Trump? It's me, something Joe Biden said yesterday as well. We have that Fox News poll from last week that shows not only Joe Biden beating Donald Trump, but Bernie Sanders able to make that case, Elizabeth Warren able to make that case, Kamala Harris able to make that case on electability. There is a big group of Democrats who can raise their hand and say, I am the one as well who can beat Donald Trump.
Willie Geist. It's so funny. Joe and Mika are practically slobbering over Joe Biden. By the way, let's not forget, these are the two clowns that basically gave Donald Trump more airtime than anybody else. No other show gave more airtime to Donald Trump in 2015, in particular, when he announced his candidacy, than these two. Donald Trump was calling in his pajamas, eating bacon, egg, and cheeses in the morning to Morning Joe. And now they're suddenly the captains of the resistance against Donald Trump. How quickly the moral imperative changes for Comcast's finest. But Willie Geist is pointing out, slow your roll on electability because, like, there's a bunch of other candidates who are very beating Donald Trump. And that Real Clear Politics link, the Real Clear Politics link of Bernie Sanders head-to-head polls against Donald Trump, for some reason, this electability discussion, for some reason, they keep removing Bernie Sanders from this discussion, even though Bernie Sanders has a longer track record of head-to-head polls against Donald Trump, dating back to 2016. These are just some of the most recent. Fox News, recent. Sanders, up, what is that, 9 points? Sanders up 9, Sanders up 8, Sanders up 5, Sanders up 1, Sanders up 2, Sanders up 7, Sanders up 1, Sanders up 9, Sanders up 6, Sanders up 8. That is an average of rounded to 6. But it's Joe Biden who's the most electable. Who, by the way, Joe Biden has only one direction to go head-to-head against Donald Trump, and that's down. Because Donald Trump, part of his political wizardry, and I don't mean I'm not defending Donald Trump. He's not a good leader, but he's a damn good politician. He's a damn good marketer. Is sticking these names to his opponents in toxic ways. He is going to call Joe Biden TPP Joe. He's going to call Joe Biden NAFTA Joe because Donald Trump understands what is the most important things to these voters in the Rust Belt, which is not Vladimir Putin, it was not James Comey, it was the fact that their jobs have been offshored for 3 decades now. Most of these journalists, certainly Joe and Mika, are not traveling to the streets and the towns and the cities in Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, Pennsylvania, that look like episodes of The Walking Dead. And I don't mean to mock those areas, but I've been there. Closed down storefronts, closed down plants, closed down youth centers, no economic activity, pretty much where it was bustling in the 1970s. Yet, Joe Biden, who basically voted for every single thing that led to that, you don't think that's going to become an issue during the campaign? You don't think people are going to look at Trump versus him and just be like, we don't think Trump's doing it for us, but like this guy hasn't been on the right side of the issues. We're just not going to come. We're either going to vote for Trump or screw it. It's the same thing. Hillary versus Trump. I don't want either.
It's like, I'll just do another 4 years.
Because I know those kinds of voters in Michigan, in Wisconsin, and Ohio, and Pennsylvania. So I'm not one of these truthers. Joe Biden is currently leading against Donald Trump, and his poll numbers are good right now. But it's almost as if they just want to end the primary now and declare Joe Biden is the most electable, when, frankly, if you look at these polls, if you read the polls, majority of people aren't even aware or fully knowledgeable about Joe Biden's Senate record. I would venture to guess 40 to 50% of those people, maybe more, have no idea that he voted for NAFTA, the bankruptcy bill, crime bill. Remember, most people are not plugged into the campaign yet. Most people are not political diehards like you or I. And based on what I saw in 2016, I had the pleasure or displeasure of being at a whole lot of Trump rallies. He had them at NAFTA, and he blanketed Hillary Clinton very, very tightly with NAFTA, TPP, and basically being part of the coastal elite and the Washington, D.C. corporatists. And he's going to do the same thing to Joe Biden. Whether the economy is good or bad, unless the economy falls off a cliff, might have a recession, might not. Thank you, Joseph Bowen. Thank you, $2 in the super chat. Thank you, Obama, for rehabilitating Biden and Hillary. Well, if you read the New York Times, apparently Obama was very gingerly saying, you don't have to do this, Joe. Because Obama is also a smart political mind. And I think he saw, this might not be, my vice president, who he is friends with, good friends with, might be past his expiration date politically. Might not be right for the times. And according to the New York Times, Obama has been telling the Biden campaign, get some young advisors in here. Your advisors are all 20 to 30-year lifers in politics. They are out of step with the current political climate. Joe Biden has not. Joe Biden has not. So, I want to play one last clip because it just shows how it's not even at this point out of touch. It's intentionally aloof. Intentionally aloof. These MSNBC people are on. This is Casey Hunt. Wish you well. About to give birth, I'm told. So, no knock on you, Casey. Hope you have a nice, healthy delivery and all that. But you're totally, totally wrong on politics. Let's play this.
I think for Joe Biden, it's a similar thing, but these polls are showing that he does have that quality that we were all wondering if he could actually hold on to when he first got into this race. I mean, the polling has consistently showed people seem willing to stick by him, and I think you really see that in the ad that they laid out. I mean, they are making, as the Reverend pointed out, a case for it's the return to normalcy case, right? It's the Democratic Party has been split the last 2 years, really, of Trump's administration on, how do we beat him? Do we throw out this system? Do we essentially make the same type of argument that Trump made in 2016 and say we got to start all over? Or do we argue, hey, what people want is stability, continuity, make America boring again? And I think you're seeing, obviously, Joe Biden stake that territory out in an eloquent way.
America boring again. I love that. Go ahead.
Make America boring again. That
would do it.
That is the bumper sticker to defeat a quasi-fascist. Make America boring again.
That energy to get people out the vote.
You know what's remarkable about this? Hillary Clinton's entire case in 2016 was Trump is the Antichrist, vote for me. Trump is the Antichrist, vote for me.
I'm with her. Good.
And Joe Biden's apparent case, and we haven't even gotten to his wife and the thing she said yesterday, which I couldn't believe. I could not believe. So let me get this straight. You had in 2016 a candidate with serious on-the-ground enthusiasm issues. You had a candidate in 2016 with serious trustworthiness issues. You had a candidate who was intentionally her campaign was booking small venues because she couldn't fill out larger crowds. You had a candidate who essentially was saying, without saying it, was saying, eat your broccoli or you get this guy. And she lost in pretty resounding fashion. I mean, you could say all you want, 70,000 votes. Wisconsin hadn't gone to a Republican since 1984. Okay? Michigan, occasionally, but most of the time goes to Democrats. Pennsylvania, most of the time goes to Democrats. She lost in 3 states that typically go to Democrats. By the way, Trump had the worst favorability of any presidential candidate in the history of this country. So let's not forget how embarrassing and catastrophic her loss was. And it was on the same exact things that we're hearing now. Trump is, a return to normalcy, or in Hillary Clinton's case, continuing the Obama legacy, and we can't let this freak show in the White House, and he's un-American, and he's the Antichrist. And I'm not saying those things are not true. I don't want Donald Trump to get reelected. That's why I'm so fiercely saying iceberg right ahead. Because you cannot win with make things normal again. That's not what people want. Yes, people want Trump out, but people want to get their wages increased. If you remember, in the midterms, the number one voting issue was health care. People want cheaper health care, and a majority of people want universal health care through the government. MSNBC and CNN could slice it however they want and cherry pick the polls to say they don't, but the majority of polls indicate people want Medicare for all. People don't just want a return to whatever their definition of normalcy is, because Morning Joe's definition of normalcy and the Democratic Party's definition of normalcy is neoliberalism and the corruption being behind closed doors rather than out front, where you see it live and in your face with this president. That's what restoring the soul of America means. So I don't know how any objective, forget if you're progressive or conservative, just sane, objective political minds are saying this stuff on television with a straight face. I don't know who they're talking to, but just says, I just want to return to normalcy, just make America boring again. That's not gonna, it's not go, honestly, if they start running on make America boring again, you are going to reelect this president in probably a landslide. If Joe Biden, because Joe Biden is not really running on any flagship policies, I'll throw in a public option, whatever that means. I don't think it's a real public option. Let's expand on Obamacare. Again, this doesn't mean anything. He's talking about bringing back these, lost era of, bipartisanship, and I could get Republicans to work with me. Yeah, you might be able to get Republicans to work with you to do neoliberal, milquetoast, regressive stuff and brand it as a victory for America. That's not what we want. So, I don't know. Doesn't look that promising to me. And then, with all of this, Jill Biden, his wife, who seems like a lovely woman, just had a talk, I don't know where it was in New Hampshire, but Jill Biden basically told a crowd somewhere in New Hampshire, hey, you might not like my husband, but just do the right thing and vote for him. I'm not kidding. This is what she had to say. Let's play the clip.
I know that not all of you are committed to my husband, and I respect that. Your candidate might be better on, health care than Joe is. But you've got to look at who's going to win this election. And maybe you have to swallow a little bit and say, okay, I sort of personally like so-and-so better. But your bottom line has to be that we have to beat Trump.
So, David, you have to swallow it and vote for Biden. I mean, is that the sign of a hot campaign, one that's really attracting voters here?
Yeah. Good morning, Jim. So I think it was a unusual but refreshingly honest take on what's going on here. The campaign that Vice President Biden is running, as articulated by his wife, Dr. Jill Biden, is that this is the guy who can best beat Trump. He may not be your first choice, but your first choice is beating Trump. Her speaking to Democratic voters. And I think that right now,
I don't even know what to say to that. That is the quintessential. That's not even eat your broccoli. That's like just eat the burnt rubber in front of you, because it might end up better than.
Because you might go hungry.
Right. And you want to know something? Like, what's unbelievable to me, Hillary Clinton was leading in all the polls in 2016 at this point. It's, there's been plenty of, Hillary Clinton was leading Barack Obama at this point. And other candidates at that point, 2007. So they're writing it like it's etched in stone that Joe Biden's the only one. I mean, we've just showed you there's plenty of other candidates right now. Almost every one of the top candidates are beating Trump head to head. So I don't get where this notion comes. Well, it's a propaganda. They're pushing it with propaganda that Joe Biden is just the only one that could defeat Donald Trump. It is very early in the process, and Joe Biden is basically conceding that other candidates have more of a vision than Joe Biden on things like healthcare, which was the number one issue in the midterm elections. And I would venture to think is going to be the number 1 or 2 issue, if there's not a recession, in the 2020 election. I mean, if that's your endorsement from the woman you sleep next to at night, that is really, really scary. And I don't say this as somebody who supports Bernie Sanders. I say this as someone who really would like to defeat Donald Trump. I don't know for the life of me why they are trying to drag Joe Biden and push him down your throat. Not just progressives, but all Democrats or independents. Like, this is the only way we could defeat this stain on humanity. It is not the only way. It is a key way you can reelect Donald Trump, because they're not giving you the context of all the vulnerabilities Joe Biden has in the key states that are going to decide this election. Thank you, Aloha Distributors, $10 in the super chat. 60% of the 13.2 billion million Biden has raised online came in the first week of his campaign. Yes, I pointed that out yesterday, or 2 days ago. I reported on his grassroots fundraising fell off a cliff because there really is no grassroots enthusiasm. Almost 60% of his online donations, which is generally the small dollar donations, were in the first week of his campaign. Since then, fallen off a cliff. But Joe Biden's saying, you might like somebody else, but, you just gotta, what does she say?
Suck it up.
Suck it up and do the right thing.
No, just vote for my husband. Not even the right thing.
We have not seen this record. We have not listened to this record before. There was no recent history of basically the party, the media telling you, don't believe the big crowds Bernie Sanders is getting. Throw in Elizabeth Warren at this point. Not my cup of tea, but she did get 12,000 people last night. Don't believe crowd size. Don't believe enthusiasm. Don't believe the small dollar engine. Don't believe that younger people are way more attracted to Bernie Sanders, that he has a more diverse coalition. Don't believe it. This is the only way to defeat Donald Trump. The definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over, expecting a different result. And frankly, I got news for you. This is not talked about much. If Donald Trump would have ran in 2012 against President Obama, he might have beaten President Obama. Mitt Romney was close. He had a great first debate performance against Obama. The problem is, then a tape came out where he basically said half of the country are a bunch of moochers, and it sank his campaign. So, seems to me, having your wife say, just hold your breath, close your eyes till it's over. Not exactly, oh, that sounded bad. Telling the voters to basically, now's not the time for, enthusiasm. Now's not the time for the revolution. Sometimes you just gotta do your chores, to get a treat in the end. This is not, in 2019, in the social media era, in an era where young people are getting more and more into politics, this is not a strategy for victory, folks. This is a strategy for apathy. This is a strategy for complacency. This is a strategy for a huge letdown on election night. So, before I move on, reminder. We're at 690 Status Quo members. That's 10 away from 700, if the math is correct. I think I know math well enough to know that's 10 away from 700. Join us as a member for as low as $5 a month. We're going to be adding more members content this week. We're also doing a members video call, I think Thursday. If I'm wrong on that, we'll correct it. But I think on Thursday night, Jen and I will be doing our video call with our members, which we get into, what we're working on, answer your questions, take your ideas, whatever you want. Statusquo.com/join, become a member now. 10 more to go till 700, and you'll be invited to our members call. We got a super chat, Smash Dragon 11, $5 in the super chat. Jordan, have you seen CNN's poll that somehow Biden has regained a double-digit lead over the rest of the candidates? How and why is he still leading? Yes, I have. I'm about to get to that. Oh, and I left out, if we could pop up the GoFundMe. We still got our GoFundMe going, and we definitely, we're trying not to push 17 things at once. So we've really been pushing membership. But to remind you, we got a wonderful, really generous donation before I went live. Thomas Hoarder, $420. $420 in the GoFundMe. Now we are just 400 and some, whatever that is.
Kelly gave 100.
430. Kelly gave 100.
Yeah, Kelly Elaine, 23 hours ago.
Oh, Kelly Elaine, $100. Thank you, Kelly. Griffin, $20. Michelle, $5. Thomas, the 420. Hope you were at higher altitudes, if you know what I'm saying, when you gave that. Thank you. We're now almost at 68,000. Keep it coming in the GoFundMe if you can. We're not finished. We got less than $23,000 now to go to our ultimate goal, which is 85,000. That would be huge. If we can get to 85,000, that's a real help to us being able to continue going out there covering stories. I was just in Newark over the weekend. We aired some of those clips on the channel. I'm going to be going back to Newark. We'd like to get back in the field on the campaign trail, do other things. So keep it coming in the GoFundMe. And if you have one thing that you could do between GoFundMe and membership, definitely become a member. If you can't do both, statuscoup.com/join. We would like to get to 700. So, I missed, somebody donated $69 too, apparently. I missed that. Thank you to whoever that was. So, not to be outdone with their, downright love affair with Joe Biden, if you've noticed, MSNBC has really, they've been all about Elizabeth Warren. They make it like Elizabeth Warren has totally reinvented the wheel on grassroots fundraising. Elizabeth Warren gets the biggest crowds in this whole campaign. Elizabeth Warren has a plan for how you roll out of bed, for how you go to the bathroom safely. She's got a plan for everything, this Elizabeth Warren. And it's kind of embarrassing to watch, actually, because I don't think Elizabeth Warren is Joe Biden. Let's be clear. Got my issues with Elizabeth Warren, but she's not Joe Biden. However, Elizabeth Warren is, it's almost like there's human beings at these networks saying, drown out Bernie. Do whatever you got to do to make it seem like he's just so 2016. He's got no enthusiasm. It's not like he has over 1 million volunteers. It's not like he's gotten a record of over $2 million donations. It's not like he hasn't had 12,000 people at his rally. Gee, his kickoff rally in Brooklyn in February had 13,000 people. Let's forget that. But this clip really gave a tickle. Gave me a bit of a tickle. So let's take a look at MSNBC Warren, the MSNBC Warren clip from today, where MSNBC was gleefully talking about Elizabeth Warren is now out with a plan on criminal justice. Let's take a look.
Elizabeth Warren is in good company in terms of looking at that bill critically all of these years later and putting Joe Biden squarely in the crosshairs on it. And as it relates to her new policy, she says she wants to repeal the bulk of that crime bill, but she does want to keep certain parts of it that, if you talk to folks in Biden's world, they say that those parts have aged pretty well. I'm talking about the Violence Against Women Act. So Warren's not taking aim at that, but the rest of it, she says, must go. And I have to say, when you look at a crowd like the one that she drew last night, I know that the polls that Garrett is talking about shows that Biden has a commanding lead over the field, but crowds like the one that she got last night, 12,000 people, that's easily the biggest that she's ever had and definitely makes other campaigns take notice.
So, I don't know. Did something happen on Sunday? Bernie Sanders. Did something happen with Bernie Sanders on Sunday? I'm trying to think back. Yeah, he released an extremely comprehensive, very detailed criminal justice reform plan that many leaders in the black community were praising all over Twitter. I guess that's not a real plan. I guess that doesn't meet the very rigid standards of MSNBC. It's not as thought out. It's not as wonderful as Elizabeth Warren's plan. And again, no knock on Warren here. Like, it's good that she came out with a plan. In fairness, 12,000 people in a crowd in Minnesota. It's great. I'm not pretending she doesn't have any enthusiasm. She does. And she has gone up in the polls. I think it's been overblown because overall, She's still not leading and Bernie is in second place in way more of these polls nationally, as well as in the key early states. But she has some momentum. But it's like MSNBC is literally pretending Bernie Sanders does not exist, and Elizabeth Warren, they're trying to frame it as Warren versus Biden. It's truly remarkable. Why, if you're a news person, why wouldn't you mention in the same breath, oh, and of course Bernie Sanders came out with a similar plan just 2 days ago. How do you leave that out? Unless you don't want it to be known that actually Elizabeth Warren isn't reinventing the wheel. Bernie Sanders has very comprehensive proposals. Your parent company just doesn't like his proposals. Frankly, I don't even think your parent company really likes Elizabeth Warren's proposals, to tell you the truth. But I think if given the choice, they would much rather prop up Elizabeth Warren in a quest to edge out Bernie Sanders. And if they are successful in edging out Bernie Sanders, then they'll turn on Warren too. It's not to say, it's just to say, if you have in front of you as a company, Comcast and MSNBC, two not great choices, one like an actual hardcore progressive, one kind of progressive when she feels like it. I'll take the progressive when she feels like it. I'll deal with her later. I just got to get rid of this guy. That is what's happening on MSNBC. It's also what's happening on CNN. I want to show you, I sent you that screenshot from CNN today, where a CNN anchor or CNN reporter, David something, was, not that, the screenshot I sent of a poll they were showing. It should be, it's attached on the email. So basically, I'll wait till Ty finds it, because this was truly remarkable. Right there, the second one. Yeah. So this was really remarkable because if you look at the lower part of the screen where CNN writes in whatever the headline is, that again what they're trying to frame. Let's take a look at this. Yeah, that's my great camera work. Okay, so it shows a new CNN poll where Biden is, I think, at 29, Bernie's at 15, Warren's at 14, and the headline on CNN, Sanders and Warren even. Sanders and Warren is even. Well, that's interesting. Isn't that interesting? Because I think the number 15, I failed math in 11th grade, I think 15 is more than 14. And why I make this point, they're very close, 15 and 14. It's not like Bernie's killing her in this poll. But can you imagine if Elizabeth Warren was at 15 and Bernie Sanders was at 14 in this new CNN poll? That headline would be Biden extends lead, Warren surges past Bernie Sanders. So it's the different framing. When it's Bernie Sanders up a point over Elizabeth Warren, they're even. They're tied. But if it was Elizabeth Warren beating Bernie Sanders, you bet your bottom dollar the Warren surge continues. She takes the lead past Sanders. When's Bernie going to drop out? Thank you, Mag Biatz, $4.99 in the super chat. Keep it coming in the super chat if you can, folks. YouTube is unfortunately up to its old shenanigans. So I also want to show, go all the way to the right to show that poll. Yeah. So in this poll, this is that poll. If you look, Biden is up. He's up from, what is that? 20, it's hard for me to read that. Hold on. Yeah, he's up 22% to 29%. I'll get to that in a minute. Bernie's up a point. Warren's down a point from the last CNN poll. But they're even. This is why I headlined this video. That these networks, particularly MSNBC, they might as well just declare as super PACs. And I wouldn't even say they're a super PAC for Joe Biden or Elizabeth Warren. I just say they're an anti-Bernie Sanders super PAC. And frankly, you see Bernie Sanders campaign in little fits here and there speak out on this. I think it's time to go more aggressive. I'm not saying you have to go like they're fake news. I'm not saying that. We don't want to talk in, Trump's fascist tone. I think propaganda, yeah, there's a lot of propaganda going on these channels. And it's a disservice to their audience. Because this is why, frankly, this is why you have a lot of older people in America, not generalizing all older people, because we do have older progressives in our audience. It's why you have a lot of older people that basically think nothing big is ever possible in this country. And it's radical to do like basic things the rest of the world does. Because they are brainwashed by these very channels to think, oh, you gotta move to this non-existent center. And people just want, what is it, make America boring again? I mean, this is paid political operations, masked as news. Masked as news. And it's, frankly, it's way worse than I saw in 2016. Way, way worse than I saw in 2016 on the road. So, now that we got out of the way, Joe Biden out of the way, now that got Elizabeth Warren out of the way, I say, this is another important reason why you need to become a member to us, Status Coup. Just going to get on my horse one more time. Is it my horse? My soapbox one more time. Because the more members we have, the more we are able to fund in the field reporting. And why that's so important, do you want to depend on CNN to cover the campaign fairly? Or MSNBC to cover the campaign fairly? For them to be interviewing Bernie Sanders supporters or working class people or minorities or actual living, breathing, working people? It's not going to happen, folks. Maybe in their maybe in the focus groups they do, where they just find people that are for Warren and not for Bernie, which we've seen on CNN a few times. So this is part of the reason we are viewer funded. This is part of the reason we are building our business, not based on advertising dollars, not based on just YouTube money, but from the ground up from our viewers. So if you like the reporting, if you like the context that we're providing here, keep it coming. Statuscoup.com/join.
Let's show the campaign trail.
Okay, we'll show you the promo video.
People online waiting to get in for a few hours, and a common thing you kind of hear from Bernie voters is, let's finish what we started.
We're going to win this election because we are putting together the strongest grassroots campaign in the history of American politics.
I'm live, sorry.
Hey everybody, look at Status Coup is out doing, what do they call this, reporting.
We the people, we got to be running Bernie as an independent regardless now.
Why is it that all of the money is going to the 1% and, our wages are staying flat? I mean, everybody's working hard. We're all going for the American dream, but it's not happening.
The United States, if you were president, has to look at some of the things it's doing to spark radicalization.
Yeah, I think it is important to look at the ideology that is driving different terrorist groups.
Take a look outside of New York at the plight of the working man and woman of this country.
And we gotta keep it 100 and respect and lift up our black women. Most of them put in that work was black women.
What does it mean to be a leader? Everybody in the front ain't a leader. You judge a leader by the work that he or she produces. We have a lack of leadership because we have people who are trying to force other people to be leaders.
He's going to need people actually correcting the record, because I think a lot of people, particularly some older, more establishment voters, think he's a socialist boogeyman, and they're going to need people knocking on their door to explain, no, he's not. He's just trying to do basically what FDR did.
Where would we be if JFK said, going to the moon is the pie in the sky? I don't know. No, we make the decision to do it, and then we figure it out.
Bernie Sanders is at least coming out saying, hey, this is what I'm about. I've been saying the same thing throughout my entire 40 years of politics, and I have not detracted from that stand.
Kimberly Ellis, who's an African-American woman running for chair, and she almost beat Eric Bauman 2 years ago. And a lot of people think she did beat Eric Bauman, that he cheated to win. Anyway, Eric Bauman was forced to resign in November because of sexual harassment.
The Democratic Party likes to talk a lot of nonsense all the time about we support women of color.
or hear from women of color. But when it comes time to create space for them to talk about issues, the issues that are bothering them, they're never there to show up.
So is this your first Bernie Sanders rally?
It is.
Okay. So what?
I'm a convert.
I think when the debates come around, I'd like to see him go a lot harder against his opponents. I like to see him like call them out for the corruption that is very obvious.
This is why status quo exists. All the corporate folks have left. We're still here.
I want somebody to come in that's not owned, that doesn't owe anybody anything, and get our country back, get our country right again.
We have seen throughout history far too many examples of how US-led regime change have been driven, frankly, by corporate interests.
Become a member of the status quo. We appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all. I thank y'all so much. Like, I'm literally doing my dream job because of y'all.
Now seeing Mexican kids getting deported without their parents, and it's just like not okay. I'm just like really disrespected. So I hope the next president does something good about this.
Well, your personal opinion is based on working in finance, not actually going out into the country and seeing what's actually happening.
You have...
Good old in the field reporting. So, statusquo.com/join. I hope you will become a member so we could keep on keeping on and doing that work. Real quick, I want to, well, not real quick, but if you remember when we first launched, even before Status Quo was Status Quo, it was just like my personal channel here. Jen and I went to Virginia where we covered a pipeline, Mountain Valley Pipeline, which is a totally toxic, unnecessary natural gas pipeline that they are basically putting underneath Appalachian country. Right there in Virginia, it's going through Virginia, West Virginia, parts of, I think, North Carolina. There was, when we went, people climbing up on their property and protesting at the top of their trees for, at that point, a month to stop the fossil fuel company from cutting down the trees because they needed to cut down the trees to put the pipeline in. So we're trying to keep, stay on top of these stories. There's developments in the Mountain Valley Pipeline. So Jen did a report to update us on this. This is another story that we would love to get back in the field and cover because these stories, don't just go away. Fossil fuel companies, big oil, don't just throw up their hands and be like, you're right, this pipeline might be a bad idea. Let's just fold up our tents here. So it's important for us to stay on these stories. Let's take a look at Jen's update on what's going on with Mountain Valley Pipeline there in Virginia.
Hey there, Jen here with an update and report on what's going on with the Mountain Valley Pipeline. The Mountain Valley Pipeline, as you'll remember from our reporting, would carry fracked natural gas through over 300 miles of Virginia and West Virginia. Jordan and I have previously reported in Virginia with protesters such as Red and Minor Terry, who actually lived in trees on their own property to try to prevent this pipeline. Here we are over a year later, and I'm going to update you with the current tree sit protests and other protests that are going on against this pipeline. This pipeline would do a lot of damage to the environment, to people's lives, and land was being seized and is being seized via eminent domain in order to put this pipeline through. It's all about profit. It's not about people, and it definitely needs to be exposed. So let's first get into a bit of what the MVP is and why it is, as they say on this Appalachian Trail Conservancy website, a prime example of bad energy development. So let's skip down here. Quite frankly, Mountain Valley Pipeline has become a good example of bad energy development. Currently, the steep mountainsides near Roanoke are being carved, gashed, and ripped up. Unusually heavy rainfall this year has, from what the earth movers first fired up, exposed the recklessness of this pipeline developer. The degradation of the landscape has meant severe erosion already, and we can tell you firsthand that Appalachian Trail hikers in the area are shocked and dismayed. In April 2017, ATC called out the pipeline company for adding more than 20,000 pages to their plans outside of public view. And they have published opinions. They talk about who they have worked with against this. So they also talk about what's at stake here. Spearheaded by the EQT Corporation, MVP will carry fracked natural gas for over 300 miles through the Virginia and West Virginia countryside, crossing over dozens of water sources and cutting through protected natural areas, including the Appalachian Trail corridor. The pipeline will run parallel to the Appalachian Trail, parallel for 15 miles and be visible on and off for 90 miles of trail. So let's talk major problems here. Thousands of people have voiced their opposition to the Mountain Valley Pipeline, highlighting issues such as permanent damage to the Appalachian Trail experience, water quality, and safety concerns. Mountain Valley Pipeline is being constructed on land that is unstable and crosses over an active seismic zone, needlessly creating a high risk of severe erosion, landslides, and pipeline failure. Land that was previously supported by trees and other plants has now been destabilized due to tree and plant removal, which could fill fresh water sources with large amounts of sediment and debris. Natural gas leaks could also poison the surrounding environment and contaminate drinking water used by near communities. And I will actually stop right there and point out the fact that we here at Status Quo, we focus a lot on water stories. Water is life. That is what you'll see in protests for Flint. That's what you saw at the No DAPL protests. That's what you'll see at these Mountain Valley pipeline protests. Water is life. Water is essential to life. And it seems like corporations and projects are, whatever, it all comes down to money. So projects like the Mountain Valley Pipeline, it all comes down to money. People are willing to devastate communities, to contaminate drinking water in order to make profit. And that's one of the major oppositions to the Mountain Valley Pipeline. There's also threats to local jobs. So you can see here the partners against the Mountain Valley Pipeline. It's quite extensive with organizations throughout Virginia and West Virginia. So again, this website is the Appalachian Trail Conservancy and their thoughts on the Mountain Valley Pipeline. I want to kind of refresh your memory of the interview that we did with Red and Minor Terry, that Jordan did with Red and Minor Terry. It was very impactful. It was actually one of the first ones that we did when we started this channel. But it was also, these women really stood their ground. I believe the story is that this land that they live on, this Red and Minor Terry, their land, their family's land, was gifted to them by the Queen, was gifted to their family by the Queen of England. I believe it was 400 years ago. So this is their land. It was seized via eminent domain so that the Mountain Valley Pipeline could so the EQT could shove this pipeline through their property. So I'm going to play a couple minutes of this just to refresh your memory, and of course we will make this interview available. I'll put the link in the chat and in the description so that you can look at it. But this will give you some background and some insight here into what's going on and why people are protesting.
Hey, it's Jordan. I'm here in beautiful Virginia. Makes me kind of upset. I live in polluted, gross New York City. I'm here with a mother and daughter who are just removed from over a month protesting on your property up in trees. You are protesting the Mountain Valley Pipeline, which is, what do they call it, a natural gas pipeline that now they are trying to ram through the Appalachian Trail here, which is some of the most pristine land we have in the country. I wanted to ask you, just obviously, mother and daughter, when did you first hear that they were putting it through your land? What was the communication between you guys and the oil company or the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission? Like, how did it happen? Because it seems like eminent domain was kind of rushed through very quickly.
That it was. They approached me 3.5 years ago, excuse me, and said, we want to survey your land. And at first I went, for what? They said, well, we're looking for pipeline. We're going to put pipeline. And no. But they came anyway. And we ran them off. And then the cops sided with them. We'd call the cops every time, and they would go, oh, well, they've got the right to be here. Well, I didn't give them the right. And the state police would run them off, or the landowner could run them off. And they came on my property, 2 years ago? And I was called. I had a kidney stone and left the doctors, and I couldn't hardly move. And my sister-in-law called and said, Red, they're on your property. Get up here. I come up, and they have to park on the road, so they were up the road here and climbed up and were over on the top of my orchard. And I was actually climbing up the side of the mountain to go after them. And every time I got anywhere near them, the cops would say, oh, I need her back. Call her back. There's something important. And I'd come down, and they'd have nothing to say. I left 3 times, and they called me back 3 times. And it was for nothing. And then one of the main cops, whatever his name, Poindexter or whatever his name was, comes up to me after they start coming out of my property and said, oh, I'm sorry, there was a misunderstanding. I didn't realize you were the property owner. And everybody there went.
One second here. So, as you can kind of tell from the start of that interview, their land was seized via eminent domain, as I mentioned, and they have gone through a lot. This has been a very lengthy process, and this was back in 2018. Jordan and I definitely want to do an update with Red and Minor Terry, but this has been going on for a long time, and because of profits, the Mountain Valley Pipeline and EQT and those behind the Mountain Valley Pipeline have continued to wreak havoc on lives and on property and threaten the environment and threaten everyday people. So Appalachians Against Pipelines is one organization that has stood very strongly against the Mountain Valley Pipeline. They are a Facebook group, which I'll show you more about them. Here's their Facebook page, Appalachians Against Pipelines. Their statement, and they actually run a fund where they try to fund additional protests. So we talked about Red and Minor's protest on their own land. Protests have continued, and a lot of these protests are seen via the Appalachians Against Pipelines group. So this is their Action Network page, and they ask people to donate, but they also give a summary of everything that's been going on. So in late February, pipeline protesters took to the trees in Jefferson National Forest in Peterstown, West Virginia, in the path of the proposed 42-inch Mountain Valley Pipeline. The resistors are stationed on the site where Mountain Valley Pipeline LLC intends to drill directly through through the mountain and beneath the Appalachian Trail. To complete this section of the pipeline route, MVP LLC would drill a 42-inch boring hole through the ridge of the Peters Mountain. The karst limestone terrain of Peters Mountain generates and filters fresh drinking water. Karst terrain also makes this area especially susceptible to landslides and sinkholes. Pipeline construction in this area would destroy a unique biome filled with caves, underground streams, and springs inhabited by life found nowhere else in the world. Mountain Valley Pipeline would carry fracked gas from shale fields in West Virginia to intersect with the existing Transco pipeline, a major highway for transporting gas to market overseas. MVP's goal is not only to profit off this pipeline, but increasing international dependence on fossil fuels. Fighting back against pipelines requires resources, and these brave pipeline fighters need your help more than ever. So then they go on to talk about their funding needs. So, that's up to you. We are here to report on what's going on, not to necessarily direct your funding, but I will inform you that Appalachians Against Pipelines is running through the Action Network. They're seeking funding. So there's a lot going on here. we have the issue of the Mountain Valley Pipeline, MVP LLC, EQT, trying to make profits, not caring about the natural resources, not caring about the water, not caring about the people. They're seizing property through eminent domain in order for this pipeline. This pipeline, by the way, is not needed at all. It's not necessary. It's not like this is something that's needed, so we need to weigh the costs and benefits or anything like that. It's simply not needed. Yet they are willing to destroy lives. So that's why there's such fierce opposition against this pipeline. So there are additional tree sits. We talked about Red and Minor Terry's tree sit, and the tree sits have gone on. And these tree sits, as Appalachians Against Pipelines reports, are actually costing the Mountain Valley Pipeline a lot of money. So as of yesterday, and this was posted on August 13th, Mountain Valley Pipeline, and this is tree sit day 342. So for almost a year, this particular tree sit protest has been going on. So as of yesterday, August 12th, as of the time of this posting, Mountain Valley Pipeline has begun incurring hundreds of thousands of dollars in move-around costs as a result of the yellow finch tree sit blockade. So the yellow finch tree sit blockade is one of the most how do you say, like, popular, not popular, but it's one of the most prominent protests going on right now against the MVP. So in other words, by their own calculation, we are costing them a hell of a lot of money. When we cost MVP money, we delay the construction of this pipeline. That is a win. Not only do we decrease MVP's profit margin, thereby inching us closer to the day when they will abandon their sunk costs, pack up, and leave these mountains, but we also change the calculations for future natural gas pipelines. So these protesters are really trying to hit these developers, the MVP, the EQT, where it hurts, and that means profits, because that's what they're about, is profits. So as I said, these protesters are really trying to diminish those profits as much as they can, to stop production as much as they can, to stop construction as much as they can. So all major fossil fuel infrastructure projects expect some amount of resistance, some number of protests. But what happens when the protests are more successful than they planned? What happens when we cost MVP hundreds of thousands of dollars by defending a single hillside? So they talk about for their next project, they'll have to take that into account. MVP was not expecting us. They weren't expecting us in the Jefferson National Forest. They weren't expecting us at Yellowfinch, nor at every blockade in between. And yet here we are, defending this hillside, defending these mountains, and putting up one hell of a fight. So they thank all their resistors and talk about how successful this has been. So what happened on August 15th is that two pipeline fighters locked themselves to construction equipment at an MVP work site in Franklin County, Virginia, preventing work at the site. And this is a picture of what was going on there. So at that time, they were asking for support and for people to come down. And they had banners, solidarity banners. So when asked why he's taking action today, Cricket, one of the people locked to the equipment, said, "Lots of things bring us here, I think. Speaking for myself, I'm currently going to school for integrated science education, which means my long-term life plan is to become a science teacher. Hopefully my blossoming legal record after this doesn't mess that up for me, but those goals stem from wanting to empower and support the well-being of future generations. Those commitments that call me to education are the same commitments that bring me here, trying to protect the earth from another pipeline that will contribute to the mass extinction we're going through right now. Unless we can stop climate chaos, the students I teach won't have a planet to learn about, or potable water to drink, or even clean air to breathe for that matter. So no matter what happens after this, I know I'm doing something that I will be proud to explain for the rest of my life. Clove and I are expressing care for the future." Clove was the other person locked on the site that day. And they mention also that it was day 345 of the Yellow Finch Tree Sit blockade near Elliston, Virginia. And again, they asked for donations to the protests, and a lot of that, I believe, goes to legal fights. So as you can see, like with Red and Minor Terry, like with Clove and Cricket, these are regular people who are fighting really, really hard at great cost to themselves against the Mountain Valley Pipeline and the corporations surrounding it. They're fighting against the profits out there that care nothing about the environment, that care nothing about the people, that care nothing about the water. They don't care that water means life, they just care about profits. So people like Red and Minor Terry, Cricket, and Clove are fighting against that. Unfortunately, and this was actually, I believe, very expected by the protesters, they were, of course, arrested. And this is a news article from a local CBS affiliate, local to Virginia, I believe. Pipeline opponents arrested after locking themselves to equipment site. 2 opponents of the Mountain Valley Pipeline were arrested Thursday after they attached themselves to construction equipment in Franklin County. Pipeline opponents arrived at the worksite along Wade's Gap Road around 7 a.m. and 2 of them attached themselves to 2 pieces of equipment, and those are the Cricket and what's the other name here? Clove. Cricket and Clove is who they are talking about. Franklin County Sheriff's Office responded and called in Virginia State Police to help remove the devices protesters used to secure themselves to the equipment. Nobody's been unruly, everybody's been talkative, been able to communicate. But they told us they had nothing really to say until things were finished and complete. So they worked to free the protesters, and in a news release Thursday afternoon, the group Appalachians Against Pipelines, which is the Facebook group that I was just talking about, said the project endangers water ecosystems and communities along its route. Mountain Valley Pipeline responded and said its unfortunate opponents want to deprive the county of direct benefits associated with reliable access to domestically produced natural gas. Of course, that's what Mountain Valley Pipeline would say, right? The 2 protesters stopped construction for about 6 hours, but shortly before 1 o'clock, both of them were removed and the MVP crews returned to work. So we know that they were arrested. I believe one of them is still in jail. They may have been released at this point. One was released earlier than the other. But Appalachians Against Pipelines reported that the tree sits are still standing strong. Today is day 349 at the Yellowfinch tree sits, and the forest beneath us is helping keep us well fed. So that's a very quick overview. I wish I could spend actually hours telling you about everything that's going on with the Mountain Valley Pipeline, the tree finch sit protests, and just the strength that the community has shown against Mountain Valley Pipeline. They are up against a lot of money. They are up against people who are determined to make even more money, but they are staying strong. This is a true example of what resistance of.
So that was Jen. A couple more minutes on the video, but we'll post it all at on the YouTube channel. Really, what's amazing about this, and great report by Jen, you have these tree protests going on in Virginia, with pretty big state. Who the hell knows this is going on? Nobody knows these things are happening. All in America. You have tree sits in Virginia. I know there were tree sits in some other states related to these pipelines. This kind of stuff is happening in many places to basically try and stop these toxic pipelines, which, by the way, these fracked gas pipelines are a major, major reason why we're having record temperatures in Europe and in all across this country. Methane emitted from these pipelines is just as bad, if not worse, than carbon dioxide, scientists and research shows. So you have American citizens, chaining themselves to pipelines, sitting atop trees, being, by the way, deprived enough water and food, in the case of a lot of these tree protesters protesting the Mountain Valley Pipeline, and barely a pin drop in the national news. So we'd like to get back out there covering these things. That's why Jen did an update today. We would love to, be able to get as close as we can to some of these tree protests. There are, kind of mini movements around these tree protesters. I remember for the ones I interviewed, Red and Minor, the mother-daughter who protested for a month at the top of trees. You know, people were coming to, basically to support them, for a while. They were coming every single night, and people were hanging out during the day so that they didn't feel alone. So you're probably seeing that as well with these other tree protesters. But this is definitely a story in our wheelhouse. We'd like to get back on the road to cover this. There's also other pipeline battles going on all across the country that other people are not covering. Jen just told me to play the last 2 minutes, so I guess she was calling for something at the last 2 minutes. Can you pull it back up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last two, she sure too.
Yeah.
About, and we have people like Jonathan Sokolow who are fighting every day and who are updating us constantly about what's going on. So that's kind of the overview. I want to get much more in depth into what's going on and all the ins and outs, and well, there's no ins and outs really, just all the outs of the Mountain Valley Pipeline. But we want to get down there again. One of the most important things for Status Coup is that we are present, that we are in field as to what's going on. So I definitely urge you to become a member today, if you're not a member already, at statuscoup.com/join. Become a member. We really need to get back down to Virginia to report on the Mountain Valley Pipeline, to report on these tree sit protesters who are risking everything, who are risking arrest, who are literally living in trees because they care so strongly about the environment and about other people. And we rely on you as our members. So please seriously consider spending the $5 a month, or join at the other membership levels as you want, but $5 a month is our lowest level. Statuscoup.com/join. Get us there. You can go to our GoFundMe, gofundme.com/status-coup-news, and you can fund us there. You can also contact us individually if you would like to invest in any of our trips. But this issue is so important. It's vastly undercovered by any other news outlet, even other independent news commentators and reporters are not reporting on what's going on in Virginia. So we definitely thank you so much for your support. We will keep you updated on this story. We are determined to stay on it because it is ongoing, and it's a very, very important story. Anyway, this has been Jen, and I will see you next time.
Everything she said. Statuscoup.com/join. Become a member. It's really, really important. It seems like we've been on the doorstep of 700 for a week or two, so we'd like to hit that magic number. Today was a tough day. You know, you start live, and our friend Jimmy Dore goes live, which unfortunately can depress viewership a little bit. One day we will be as big as Jimmy, but at the current, Jimmy tends to go live not at the same time all the time, so unfortunately you get you work like 2-3 hours before the live stream to pick the stories, get the clips ready, all this, and then you see that dreaded notification that Jimmy Dore is going live. Not always beneficial, but love Jimmy. Hope you've accepted my apology for not coming to your show, because I haven't heard back from you yet. Triana Be Fine, $5 in the super chat. No one would even know about the tree protesters if not for Status Coup. That is true. We were the only national media on the ground there over a year ago, and we'd like to go back. So again, statuscoup.com/join. I'll be back at it tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern. Hopefully, the only show on at 5 o'clock Eastern. People are like, don't go live when Jimmy goes live. How about Jimmy not go live on it? No, I'm kidding. We go live 5 o'clock every day. He's more unpredictable when he goes live. So I'll see you tomorrow. Remember, statuscoup.com/join. And also join our email list, statuscoup.com. You could enter your email. That's another important way we grow. Remember, most people are not lacking compassion in this country. Most people have no earthly idea what is happening all around them. Peace out.
Out front tonight, chaos at the White House. President Trump's deputy chief of staff, his communications director, is
just because of their connection to President Trump. And I know you've been saying.
We learned recently that Donald Trump threatened to sue his former schools if.
Tired of hearing about Trump 24/7? Become a member at statusquo.com for only $10 a month. Click the notification. With your help, we can start the media revolution.
And before Bernie went on stage, I spoke with his supporters online here, and you really get that feeling from